Ukraine's NATO facility.
And we are live. Hello, everybody. Hello, Larry Johnson, my good friend. How are you doing?
I am well. Good evening to you. Good day. Boa
Good
noite.
end of after. Boa noite. Boa
Yeah.
noite. Perfect. That's good. Did you lose some money on the markets?
No.
Good.
I've stayed out of the market, or what investments we have were protected. We're not
Great.
risk takers.
Great. Smart people. Gold and silver, just like the judge tell you.
Yeah.
Larry, how are you doing, my friend? This week is slightly normal, crazy as usual, but slightly normal. But it just seems like the guy's dead serious. What can we say about it?
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Pete Hegseth's favorite expression. Now, he's dead serious. Yeah, I'm serious. He's dead serious. Seriously. It's like, okay. Dude, do you even listen to yourself? We're in sort of a wait and see mode because Witkoff comes back from his talks with the Iranian foreign minister. Initially indirect, but at least they spoke at the end of that session. And briefing Trump. Now the ball's in Trump's court because Iran has made it clear they're only going to talk about reducing enrichment of uranium. The United States also in the past insisted that no, it wasn't just reducing enrichment. You got to get rid of the missiles. You got to get rid of the systems that could be used to launch and carry a nuclear warhead. You got to stop providing any kind of support or have any kind of relationship with Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. So basically, you have to completely disarm yourself as a country and follow our foreign policy. Iran's going to, basically tell them to fuck off. They're not going to do that. So Witkoff is delivering that message to Trump. We'll see. Trump is all over the board. You can't rely upon a single thing he says. There's going to be hell to pay. Well, he said that and then doesn't follow through on it, which is good. He is all into making threats with his mouth that his body can't deliver on. And he's got a real golden opportunity here. If he takes this deal, which is sort of like, we'll call it JCPOA light. It would be number 2, but it's not as, the JCPOA number 1 was I think it had a 10-year limit on it. So this could be more comprehensive in terms of saying they promised never to build a nuke. And, if he gets that deal, then he can celebrate, hey, man, I got a deal. I took away Iran's chances to build a nuclear warhead. Now, they weren't building one anyway. So, it's not like Iran's giving up something that they had developed ready to go. But Iran's going to want some sanctions lifted. I don't think it'll all be lifted, but a significant number would be. That's the deal that should be made. Personally, I don't think it'll happen. Well, boy, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm just dead ass wrong.
I'm kind of very puzzled on this because we've been hearing for some time that the United States would have a very hard time taking down Iran. I do believe on that. I mean, it's it's not hard to see that they're not doing so well with the Houthis.
Well, they haven't. They've 30 days, 31 days now, attacking the Houthis. Have they destroyed Houthi capabilities? No. For God's sake, Iran is far larger, far more robust, a lot more depth in their military capabilities. So this notion that, oh yeah, we can just go in there and flex our military muscles and change the world. It's fantasy land.
I was watching some analysis, about some very special what's B-61-12 bombs, the Wunderwaffens of always. Doesn't make any sense. Does it gives any kind of possibility? Because when I see this kind of analysis, it's fine, all right. I do believe it, and I do believe that the United States do have capabilities. I always say this on the channel. Yeah, it's not a dead man walking. They do have capabilities, but to what level? I mean, that's all right. They have bombs that can, pierce through bunkers or whatever. But what's the other side? Does the other side does not have any capabilities? Does Iran have no capabilities to not only protect itself from this kind of attacks,
Right.
but also to retaliate at some level?
Well, Iran, number one, they perfected building underground. That's, I think, where Hamas sort of learned this from Iran. Only in Iran's case, they've got massive underground structures that, frankly, might be able to penetrate with a nuke. I say might, but there's no guarantee. Iran's got very rugged mountainous terrain, particularly in the north, that they can hide facilities. So it is one, the United States would be hard pressed to have enough aircraft to deliver this number of attacks required to actually significantly weaken or destroy Iran's military capability. We don't have that number, and that's all assuming that Iran's air defense system sucks, which it doesn't. They've got their own system internally, but they've also got the Russian systems, the S-400 in particular. So, if Trump is foolish enough to move forward with his military threat, I think he will have signed the death certificate of his presidency, because the U.S. will lose. It will be, or it'll embroil us in a stalemate in a military conflict that we cannot win. Because we don't have the manpower, and we don't have the money to sustain it. And by the time we would build up a capability required to, quote, invade Iran and take control of it, we'd be talking, a 2 million man army minimum. And even then, the logistics involved in trying to deploy and sustain that army in the field, almost, it's like Mission Impossible, and it ignores the fact that Iran now has a strategic military relationship with both Russia and China. So
extremely important point that you made yesterday on the judge. They just been doing some exercises together.
Yeah, they've been doing it the first 2 weeks of March for the last 7 years, since 2019. So
not even a new deal. It's already something that's going on for some time.
Yeah, this is Iran and Russia and China have been working on a pretty in-depth security relationship for many years now, predating the special military operation. And it's only in the wake of the special military operation, and then subsequently with Israel's attacks on Iran, attacking diplomatic facilities, et cetera, in Lebanon, Syria, that they really have come to the realization these guys are dangerous. The West and the Zionists cannot be trusted. So we're going to have to be totally prepared to defend ourselves.
Yeah. Just one point about that, especially about the Houthis, that I watched your video on countercurrents with Alex Krainer, fantastic
Mhm.
guy. He made a very interesting point that the European Navy, well, not Navy, sorry, the European ships, the cargo ships going to Europe, they were not getting too much of a problem there on the Red Sea. Yet, nonetheless, and Trump himself said that the United States, not Trump, sorry, J.D. Vance said that the United States only has like 3 or 4% of the trade passing by that route. Could that be United States again punching on Europe? You know, just
Well, yeah, he. I thought it was an interesting point. I'm not sure that that was the primary objective in all of this at all. Let's call it an ancillary benefit, because on the one hand, it is damaging, or it can put pressure on Europe, but week you had a situation where they put this in the wake of putting the tariffs on China. Then the story started circulating about, the Ukrainians have captured 2 Chinese soldiers who are fighting with the Russians. And so then the whole narrative shifted to about China's bad because it's supporting Russia's war effort, 80% for end use material. Well, that figure was used by Tammy Bruce, the spokeswoman at the U.S. State Department, and then it was done by Kaja Kallas, sort of the foreign minister of the European Union. So clearly, with respect to, let's call it the Chinese propaganda, the United States and Europe were cooperating. So I think we can't ignore that. So, but
yes.
The reality is that the United States wants Europe to take more responsibility for protecting Europe. It's that simple.
I was even give credit to Alex Cristoforo who found this news about a new news from Ukraine about these Chinese guys, and one of the guys' names they put on the news was Chong Rambo. Chong Rambo, really?
Yeah.
John Rambo.
Yeah.
That's John Rambo.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
That's ridiculous. And it's supposed to be a news outlet, Twitter news shitter news outlet.
Yeah.
Joe Rambo, come on, guys, you can do better, perhaps.
Yeah.
Larry, just pivoting away a little bit from that, I'd like to ask you about this report on the White House. Basically telling the world there's a plan so we can end this trade war. And basically, one of the points of the plan is, give us money. It's like the mafia. Give us money. What a beautiful country you have there.
I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Are you talking about that document they posted on the White House website?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the guy, Alexander Mercouris, talked about it quite extensively on his show.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds like we're basically saying, hey, the burden of being the world leader is too great, and you're using our reserve currency, so pay up. Everybody's got to pay up. Yeah, it was. I think most of the rest of the world was shocked because you're going, really? Yeah,
I was shocked.
Yeah.
No, that was simply amazing. It's basically, mafia stuff. What a beautiful countries you have there. It would be awful if something happened to them.
Yeah,
Give us money. It's the pizza, what they call it here in Napoli, in Italy. It's
the
pay
pizza.
us.
Yeah,
Pizza, pizza, no, pizza. It's
pizza.
the money for the pizza guys to pay the mafia so they don't blow up the pizza restaurants.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
That was
yeah,
that was hilarious.
protection money.
Yeah, from myself.
Yeah.
Pay me so I protect you from myself. By the way, you're very communist today. You're using the red.
Yep.
What happened to your
I decided to go with just a solid red today.
solid red? All right, cool. That's Miami solid red. Right. Larry, about the Ukrainian situation, there are some discussions, but no negotiations, no solid negotiations whatsoever. Lavrov even said yesterday that, very gentle, they are failing to go to the basic points.
Yeah, no, well, I think this last round between Putin and Witkoff was important. I made the point with the judge yesterday, actually off air, that what I think a lot of people, I've listened to, who was it that was, oh no, it's Pepe. Pepe was focused on the fact that Witkoff is a, real estate guy. But I sent Pepe a note, said, the guy's a lawyer first. So, yeah, he's a lawyer who got involved with real estate, not the opposite. And by virtue of being a lawyer, it means he looks at the world in a different way than a non-lawyer. And it just, but how the training takes place in law school about, looking for what are, it's basically, it's an approach to managing risk, identifying risk, managing risk, and then adhering to, we talk about a legal structure. Well, Putin also is a lawyer. So I think actually the communication between the two was probably pretty solid because, Putin understood his legal background, Witkoff's legal background, and could, convey to him the entire case from Russia's perspective as a legal case, basically presenting the brief on why they're doing this and what it's going to take to get it stopped. And I think Witkoff came away from that meeting finally understanding the Russian position. Now, at the same time, while they were talking, I'm sure the issue of Iran came up. And so you're not going to separate Iran and Ukraine into two separate buckets. They're actually intertwined. And because the entire purpose for the West in attacking Russia is ultimately to destroy and weaken Russia, to force it to break up into smaller parts. And in that regard, Iran plays a critical strategic role on basically these, we call it the soft underbelly of Russia. If Iran can be converted into a solid U.S. lackey, I would call them an ally, they got to be our bitch, then we'll have another base by which to essentially attack Russia. That's part of what's going on here.
And it also fracture the, let's call it, resistance. It's something different, but let's use a simple word: resistance against the West, against the West aggressions. And when I say aggressions, not always military, but also economic aggression.
Yeah, it's colonial enslavement is what the West is promoting, and that's what BRICS is opposing. And that's why I think it's important to recognize that this this relationship between Russia and China now is very, very deep. It is not a superficial relationship at all. It is, let's call them blood brothers.
Blood in, blood out,
Yeah.
as the movie I told you. Since you mentioned China, let's do a shorter show today. I'm tired. Everyday videos, it's very tiring.
Yeah. No, it's hey, it doesn't look like work, but it is.
People have no idea. It's like 30 minutes of work, 2 days of preparation for that. It's very hard. So about China itself, what happened? Did Trump bitch out of that?
Well, Trump has chosen to fight a battle, another war he can't win. The real reason behind what Trump was trying to do was to figure out how to deal with the astronomical debt, the foreign debt of the United States. I think there was some hope that by this tariff strategy would have taken the yield. So this is basically the interest that's paid on bonds, that the short-term and longer-term bonds, that the yield would go down. And so it's like if you're paying 10% interest on a car loan or a home mortgage or something, and then you can refinance it at 5%. Well, you'd do that in a heartbeat because you'd be saving a lot of money, and that's essentially what Trump was they're trying to do to get that yield down on the bonds. But the exact opposite happened. The yield went through the roof. So now the United States is going to have to pay out more money, and the United States falsely believes this tariff war is actually a good metaphor for what would happen if we went to war with Iran. Because we like to believe that we're so powerful in the United States and so essential that nobody can live without us. And what we're discovering is that China does not need a single thing from the United States that only the United States can supply. Not a single thing. Everything that the Chinese have been getting from the United States, whether it's oil or gas, jet engines for commercial jets, commercial airliners, food, soybean, wheat, rice. There are other countries that can provide that. So, China would go get it from somewhere else. And then those manufacturers in the United States, they'll be screwed. So they may not have as good an opportunity to sell their goods elsewhere. But you turn it around, there is a lot that China provides us that we don't have an alternative for in the States. iPhones, iPads, they cut those off. There goes an entire large segment of the consumer market in this country. Rare earth minerals that are essential components, essential ingredients in making a variety of military weapon systems and explosives. So again, Trump he's picked the fight and tried to humiliate the Chinese in the process. And as I heard, this one Chinese commentator say the other day very defiantly, look, we fought the United States to a standstill in Korea, and we didn't have an Air Force and we didn't have a Navy. We're better now. So, they're defiant. They're pissed off. And it's this. I don't think this is going to end well for Trump. It was stupid. And I think it's an absolute stupid thing to do. Instead of he claimed, it depends on what the goal of it is. He says that it's about bringing jobs back to the States, but this is probably going to have just the opposite effect. So we'll see.
I have an idea. You call Trump. I know you know him. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Call Trump and tell him that he can go to the Bank of BRICS and ask for a loan with lower interest rates and pay his debt, and then just sell it, just change to the Bank of BRICS. Tell him I said that. You're welcome, United States. I just saved you 5 minutes.
Yeah. Look, the United States, we've become accustomed to being a bully. By virtue of having the reserve currency, we think we can tell everybody what to do. And the rest of the world is going, wait a minute, this is, no, you're not going to subject us to that. Oh, no, this stops now. So we've alienated a large segment of the world. And if you think those other nations aren't lining up to take advantage of us or to get payback, then you have a naive view of human history.
Yeah, that's fine. I have one question. That's probably a very quick question. The oil reserves of the United States, the strategic reserve, especially since it started the special military operation, they were deep down. They dropped for less than half of what it was before, and they start rising again, but very slowly. Just recently, it raised just a little bit. Just at the same time that Trump was trying to play, monopoly with the stock markets, there was a drop on oil prices.
Yeah.
Is the United States trying to play that as well? Do you think that they could go even deeper on giving up the strategic reserve?
Well, I don't think they need to replenish the strategic reserve. It was drained by Joe Biden in order to keep gas prices low in this country. So now they've got to rebuild it. So from that standpoint, the lower price of oil helps the government save some money. It's better to fill it up at $60 a barrel as opposed to $70 or $80 a barrel. And that will be one of the consequences if the United States decides to follow through on its attack on Iran. Then the price of oil will skyrocket. So it is. I don't think. I doubt that Trump and his team are thinking strategically like you are. Okay.
Am I?
Well, just that the nature of the question, you're looking at it and saying, you're thinking that the movement of the price of oil is connected to a policy that something they're trying to accomplish. I don't think that the movement of the price of oil was necessarily the outcome of a policy decision. I think it was more of a fringe benefit.
All right. Well, that's one thing that I always say to my other friends that have analyst channels. You overthink things. Just believe that there's some very stupid people taking decisions.
Yeah. You get very embroiled in the analysis without recognizing there may just be a very, very simple explanation. They had no clue.
I always loved you because you always come with that explanation. They have no clue. And, I do believe.
I've seen it too many times throughout my career of working both in the private sector and in government, that the most dangerous thing is there's always somebody that says, somebody's taking care of that, or somebody knows what they're doing. No, they really don't. They have no clue. That was one of the the beliefs surrounding the war in 2003 in Iraq, that this was part of some grand U.S. strategy to. And yeah, I know that the Wesley Clark said he saw a plan to start 7 wars, but if that was their plan, they fucked it up big time. But they didn't go. It's one thing to say we're going to start this war and we're going to get this outcome. It's going to become a great democracy. Okay, so let's put people in charge that know Iraq, that speak Arabic, that know the history. And and I've told the story, I think, to you before. The guy that was selected to go be the poobah, sort of the acting ruler of Iraq was L. Paul Bremer, Jerry Bremer. And I knew Jerry. He was the coordinator for counterterrorism. He left that job just as I arrived at State. So I would have originally been working under him, but instead I worked under his successor, Morris Busby. But so I knew Jerry, and when he was named to go over and take that job, I called him up and said, "Hey, let me introduce you to Pat Lang." Pat had been the defense attaché to both Saudi Arabia and Yemen. Pat had established the Arabic program at West Point. He was they started teaching it, and he was the instructor of Arabic. He was also the DIA's chief of the Middle East division. So, and he had hand carried intelligence to the government of Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War. So he knew there was not another American that knew more about Iraq than Pat Lang. And when I told Bremer, I said, "Hey, let me introduce you." "No, I don't need to talk to him." That's what I mean. You got a bunch of people on paper look to be really, really smart, and they do some of the stupidest stuff and make some of the worst decisions you can imagine.
Yeah, I watched some of the videos from the Center of Strategic whatever.
Center for
in-
Strategic and International Studies, CSIS.
Exact, CSIS. And I worked many years on academic, environment. And what I learned from academic, I'm a software developer. I'm not, a PhD on physics, whatever, a researcher on high energy physics or something like that. I'm the computer guy. What I notice on that is that people discuss among them things that are not practical.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see the videos from the CSIS, those people do exactly the same. They are too academical. They do not discuss practical things.
Yeah.
They even sometimes recognize, for example, if China attacks Taiwan, then we have no chance. China will have us under the finger. But yeah, perhaps we can do it. You just recognized 2 minutes ago that it was impossible. Just recognize it's impossible.
Yeah.
Smart move. Yeah. Larry, thank you very much, my good friend. Always a great conversation. Yeah, shorter program. We finally did it.
Well, it's 37 minutes, so that's
Yeah.
okay.
Not so short.
Okay.
I'll get better.
No, that's fine.
Thank you very much, Larry. Remember, everybody, to follow Larry on socials, especially on his Sonar21. Like, share, subscribe, and see you later. See you the next time.
All right. Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.